Did Eleven see Will being followed by the Demogorgon, and did she see him being taken on the night he disappeared? In season 1, Eleven recognises Will in a photo in Mike's room, and then she also seems to know where he is. She knows that he's in the Upside Down. But how does she know this? And how does she recognise him? I feel like it's assumed that she knows all of this from her mind place, that she's seen Will in her mind place that she goes to, and that's how she knows him and where he is. But going to her mind place requires very specific conditions, with the blindfold and having static noise. When would she have had chance to do this between opening the gate in Hawkins' lab, escaping Hawkins' lab, meeting and spending time with Benny, and then meeting Mike and the gang? And why would she go there and look for Will? As far as we know, she doesn't know Will at this point, so why would she go there to look for him and see where he is? Because we know she has to go looking for someone or something to find them in her mind place, and even then she needs a picture of them. She needs to know what they look like. So I don't think it's plausible that she saw him in her mind place. So how did she recognise Will, and how did she know that he was in the Upside Down? So Eleven opened the gate in Hawkins' lab, and therefore I think we can assume escaped the lab on the same day that Will disappeared, on the same day he was taken by the Demogorgon, which was November the 6th, 1983. We also know that Hawkins' lab and Will's house are very close together. So my theory makes sense and is plausible timeline-wise and location-wise. It's very feasible to think that Elle might have come across Will that night, the night he disappeared. My theory is that she was escaping the lab, was moving through the woods, was coming up to Mirkwood, that road where Will fell off his bike, and I think she saw the monster, saw the Demogorgon, if it was the Demogorgon and not Vecna that was following Will. Either way, I think she saw the monster, saw what was following Will, and then saw Will himself, saw him cycling up, falling off his bike, and running away. And I think she followed. I think she wanted to help, but she inevitably doesn't want to make herself known. She wants to stay quite quiet and hidden because she's currently a fugitive. She's just escaping the lab. She doesn't want to go back. She doesn't want to be taken back. I think she followed Will, and therefore the Demogorgon, back to Will's house. I think she saw Will run into the shed, and I think she was ready to battle the monster. I think she waited outside the shed and was going to fight the monster with her powers, but the Demogorgon wasn't there. Because obviously we know the Demogorgon doesn't go through the front door of the shed. It appears behind Will. So I think Eleven then went into the shed to check what was happening, to see if Will was okay, but then saw that Will was gone. So I think this is why and how Eleven recognises Will in that photo. I think she recognises him because she saw him on the night he disappeared. So then how did she know where he was? How did she know that he'd been taken to the Upside Down? So as I mentioned, we know that the Demogorgon appears behind Will. It didn't go through the front door, it wouldn't have climbed through a window because Will would have heard it. So it must have either sort of phased in a similar way to how it phased out in the Byers' house later on in season 1 when Nancy and Jonathan are attacking it, or it came through a gate. We know these temporary gates were opening because that's how it took Barb, that's how Nancy got into the Upside Down. I think a temporary gate opened behind Will in the shed, and that's how the Demogorgon took Will. Because then the next day, when Hopper's looking for Will, he notices the dog barking at the shed, like something weird's going on in there. Hopper then goes in to investigate, and he himself then has these weird feelings. He has a bit of an episode where he has flashbacks and he can't hear the officer properly. And he looks really closely at a corner of the shed, which is probably about where the monster would have emerged from behind Will to take him. And so I think a gate opened there. I think it had closed by the time Hopper was looking, so there was nothing there to see, but I think there was a gate there. And on the night that Will was taken, and Eleven had followed, she was waiting outside the shed, she was going to attack the Demogorgon with her powers, but it didn't show. And then I think she saw the lights flickering. She saw them flickering in the shed, so she went in to help to see what was happening, but Will was gone. And I think there was a gate there. I think she saw the gate, but saw it closing. I think she went in very close after Will had gone, and so she just saw it as it was sealing up. We see when Nancy goes through the gate in the tree later on in the season, it then slowly stitches itself up afterwards. So I think this is what Eleven saw in the shed. She saw Will gone and a gate closing. She knew where that gate led to because she'd opened one herself, and it had unleashed a monster, the Demogorgon, and she'd seen the Demogorgon and that it was from another dimension in her mind place, and she knew the gate that she opened was a doorway to that dimension, and this gate that she saw in the shed was the same gate, the similar doorway, and so that's how she knew where Will was. Whilst escaping the lab on November the 6th, she came across Will and he fell off his bike on the road, was followed by the Demogorgon. Elle was there. She followed. She was going to help, but by the time she got in the shed to help, Will was gone. But there was the gate closing up, and that's how she recognised Will and how she knew where he was. That's one of my little Stranger Things theories. Let me know what you think and if you agree or disagree in the comments. I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts. Thank you so much for watching, guys. I really hope you enjoyed it. If you did, I'd be so grateful if you'd smash a big thumbs up. And if you want to hear more theories, then make sure you hit that subscription button and notification bell so you don't miss future videos. Thanks so much, guys, and I'll see you in the next one.